What a way to finish. I mean, that's that's how you finish a season right there if you're Purdue. That was an unbelievable back and forth comeback. I mean, just about had everything in it for Purdue to win that game. And there were many a times where I did not think they were going to win that game. But for the third straight year, they beat Indiana. They win 35-31 and get to retain the Old Oaken Bucket for the third straight season. I think the fifth in their last 6 years. Just an unbelievable performance on both sides of the ball. Yes, there were some mistakes, but I don't even want to talk about any of them, really. I want to talk about how this team finished this year strong, how you should be excited for what the future lies. I mean, I was impressed with how they finished this game. And yes, I know they beat a bad Indiana team. And yes, this Purdue team is still nowhere to where I think it played to its capabilities this season. But that was a game that Purdue needed to have, and they got. Both teams needed it, but Purdue got it. And they might have just helped fire their rivals coach. I don't know if that was already going to be set in motion, but I think that Purdue just kind of put the final nail in the coffin of Tom Allen at Indiana. I I think they did. We'll find out more about that maybe on Monday or later today on Sunday. So, man, but what a performance! I can't believe it. But let's dive deep into this game. So many things to highlight. So many plays to touch on, so many emotional things that happen in this game. But first, let me tell you about Bet Online. The holiday season is off and rolling. I already got some of my Christmas shopping done during this, sales weekend. So it is off and rolling. NFL full stride, along with the NBA and NHL already hitting midseason form. Bet Online is your number one destination for your sports wagering info. With up to the minute news, odds, trends, and predictions, BetOnline is your top spot for everything pro and amateur sports. Not just the big four sports, BetOnline also has info right at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that is played, including MMA, international soccer, college football, college basketball. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And at the start of this game, I didn't think Purdue was really gonna win this game at all. I felt like they came out a little flat, and there just wasn't really a whole lot of juice. I thought. I thought the offensive line wasn't doing a good job of opening up a whole lot of running lanes. They weren't allowing Hudson Card any time, and he didn't really get any time all day, anyways. But he made plays. This was. I'm trying to think back of performances from Hudson Card that were better this year, and they're not too many. I think Illinois game was a really good one. Um, man, Illinois game. Virginia Tech was not that great. It was just an ugly win. Even the Minnesota game played well. I mean, but that was a lot of the rushing attack was in full stride that day. But today was Hudson Card, and I thought he performed very well. Uh, the way that this team came back after going down 28-18, at that point I was like, there's still a pretty good chance that this team comes back. I felt like they were moving the ball. IU hadn't really done anything late in that first half, in that third quarter, that was like, all right, I don't think they're going to be able to put this thing away. I thought if Purdue just kept feeding the running game, letting Hudson Card use his legs, and make some plays. I thought, all right, we're starting to see some things here that are opening up. Deion Burks has one of his better days all season. George Burhen, okay. I mean, if we're gonna get performances like that, you're gonna just think to yourself, why didn't this young man play earlier? At least the last 4 games of the year, or last three, finally comes in and has a fantastic day. 5 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown. You did see Garrett Miller go down again. Unfortunate. Um, Dude's been banged up all year. I know he's been fighting to get back and be healthy. Unfortunate. Hopefully it's not too serious, but when you're taking off like that, it's more than likely kind of serious. So, but man, it was a performance, and going into that fourth quarter, first play of the fourth quarter. I'll back up just a touch. It's 28-18. Go to the fourth quarter commercial break. And I'm thinking, man, if they get stopped here, fourth down, I I don't see a path to come back. But you get the fourth down, you at least go down and get a field goal, or get a touchdown, and then you're right back into this game. So first play out of the fourth quarter, they fake the run up, QB run up the middle, hit Devin Mockabee streaking down the left side. Nobody thought to cover him, and hits him. And an incredible play call. I thought there was some creativity shown today that we haven't just seen, all season long from Graham Harrell. Now performances, like the last few weeks, don't really have me saying, "Hey, he needs to come back." I don't know. He might come back, but I wouldn't be a fan of it. Just me personally. If I was a diehard Purdue fan, I wouldn't love it. Just based on the overall work that we've seen from the season. And yes, there's been a lot of injuries, but when you're still able to put up 35 points on what I think is a fine defense, a solid defense, it's not what you have faced for the majority of the year, but I just think there are need to be more opportunities, more easy plays, and we finally got a performance from Hudson Card in this offense that felt pretty balanced. When he was able to use his legs, I thought it was a offense that was rolling. When they tried to do the more traditional things, like they have been the last couple of weeks with running with Tracy and Mockabee, there were some stifling moments, but they still ended up having decent days on the ground. And obviously, you got the running backs involved somewhat in the passing game, and I was hoping for that all season long, from the very beginning. And I felt like we didn't get a whole lot of it, as much as I thought. So, but I thought, this gutsy performance after the defense, allowed IU to kind of move the ball on them. Thank goodness for Brandon Sorsby to throw so many errant passes today. He probably should have had more than 3 picks. But Dylan Thieneman, excellent. He might go down as one of the Purdue greats, because he is a stud, absolute stud. And I know the one easy play was, or the one pick was looked pretty easy, but he still comes up and makes the other interceptions, the other tackles. The kid has been just an absolute beast all season long. Incredible, incredible. I thought secondary, the defensive front showed up in that fourth quarter, especially to get some stops. It stops when they needed to, because there were some times where they weren't really getting a whole lot of pressure, weren't really making the life of Sorsby too difficult. But I still felt like that overall they had a solid day and they made plays when they had to. And that wasn't always the case this year. They really got beat as they got more beat up as the season went along. They made some dumb plays. Special teams was an absolute disaster for the whole most of the year. But Ben Freehill, credit to him for making those final 3 field goals. They don't win without him, so credit to him. I mean, especially coming back after you missed that first one, because then it just could be in your head the rest of the day. And the botched extra point as well. I mean, so many things could have gone wrong. You had a false start on a punt for IU that was 4th and 5, but it ended up giving them a first down. Um, Not a smart play. And we saw Ryan Walters show some emotion. I thought a little bit more than normal, and maybe he was feeling the juices of the rivalry. And I think I enjoyed that. I liked him being more fired up, because obviously we see him in these press conferences, or we see him on the sideline, and yes, he gets somewhat emotional, but it's measured. It's not super, you know, outlandish, getting in the face of the referee and chewing his ass out for a few minutes. It's it's usually just having a very stern conversation, raising his voice a little bit, but he was at least chewing out some of his players today, and maybe we got to see a little bit more of that with the just the emotions of the rivalry game. And but I thought the defense, really made some nice plays on defense when they had to. The first sequence of drives where Sorsby sails it, Thieneman picks it off, Purdue goes down, but they missed the field goal. Really felt like a missed opportunity, because Card missed Garrett Miller over the middle on 3rd down. He was wide open, just missed him. But you still had George Burhan came to play. John Tibbs made some plays, and you know, I've talked about him sparingly this year. I talked about him in the preseason, that we'll see if he were to redshirt or get it in on some action. And I think he's obviously going to redshirt this year, but still got to see some action with how the rules are. So, but the offense at times today looked like an absolute mess. The defense for IU was getting after Card. I think IU's had like 6 tackles for loss just in the first half. They finished at 10 or near 10 for the game. But that just goes to show the offensive line and their struggles this year, and how beat up they were. And even though you had, still a lot of your starters in for this whole season long, but I think they've just been spent, to be honest with you. And another thing on the special teams, how do you allow Jalen Lucas just to sprint for that touchdown? I mean, that was just, he had a wide open lane. He didn't get touched the entire time. So special teams needs to be fixed. Secondary needs to be fixed. You have pieces. And when I say secondary, I mean probably the corners more than Dylan Thieneman. Obviously, he's been fine. Sanusi Kane has been good all season long, but you just didn't really feel the impact from guys up the middle a whole lot this year, like Cole Brafard, Nichols, Jeffrey Emba. I mean, they're solid, but they just didn't feel like they made a whole lot of game-changing plays. And maybe if I dove back into the film more, maybe I would be corrected on a handful of times. But when you have Nick Scorton, especially on that final play of the game, well, not of the game, before the kneels, but he came to play today. Kadrian Jenkins obviously played today really well. Those 2 guys, and Thieneman and Sanusi Kane, Cam Allen with another interception, an incredible interception, kind of ripping the ball away from the IU wide receiver. That was, those 4 to 5 guys, and you could throw in Karloftis, OC Brothers, Clyde Washington at times. I mean, those guys, those were your guys. Marquise Wilson, was solid when he was healthy this year. I just, I just, I don't know how you just got to be able to put it together next year. I thought if you look into the numbers of that defense, I just think they played a whole lot better than what the numbers are going to show you because of how much they were on the field, how poorly this offense put them in positions at times this past season. But they stepped up. This unit stepped up in that fourth quarter. They only allowed 3 points in the final 15 minutes, 77 total yards. Nick Scorton gets the play on 4th and 1 on Sorsby. I thought he was offsides for a hot second because he timed it up absolutely beautifully. Was out there all by himself, tripped up Sorsby, and gets the game winning play essentially. I don't think he was credited with a sack. I think it was just an incomplete pass, but he was in there. Felt like for a lot of the time today when IU was dropping back to pass. So otherwise, this team has been obviously frustrating to watch. You feel like you have pieces that are hopefully are coming back. You would hate to see some more guys enter the transfer portal, as we've already seen TJ Sheffield enter the portal, and you know his impact on the season. He had a couple of good games. Other than that, I think he probably feels like there are other options behind him, or he felt like he wasn't being used correctly. It's me speculating. I have no idea what the reasons are he's decided to leave. But he left the program earlier this past week and entered the transfer portal. I just thought either he wasn't. I think there's a number of factors. Either he felt like he wasn't getting coached up to his potential, wasn't being used the right way, felt other guys behind him are going to surpass him, and he just keeps getting buried and further down the depth chart, which maybe he was, and maybe he is going to be going forward, and that's why he's deciding not to come back to Purdue, because you have guys like Dron Tibbs, Dixon Veal. I can't remember Deion Burke's eligibility. I'm not sure if he's back or has another year. It's kind of confusing with the COVID years. So, but you have a decent start to what you think your receiving core could start to look like, and then put with any transfer portal guys that could come in, your freshman class guys can make an impact. So I don't know. We will have to see because there's a lot of things that need to be built up on this team, and including depth. Now, I don't know how quickly Ryan Walters is going to be able to do that, building up some depth with talent. That usually takes a few years, and you need to get guys in here that are going to perform at a high level, but you also need those guys that are going to be quality backups to where there's not a super significant drop off to when a player goes down with an injury. You don't want to have the situations where you had this year where you're having guys switch over from offense to defense and Zion's tiptoe, and he's looks like he's lost at times out there. And I thought he played better today in certain instances, but by means, still IU still threw the ball for quite a bit of yardage today and had some plays downfield. But I thought the depth that this team had was lacking, and in a lot of areas. I mean, offensive line, you got to build up the trenches. You can't have a super significant drop off there, but it's hard. It takes years and years to get to where you need to be, to where you're a solid 8-win program. And I think Purdue fans know at this point that they're not asking for a year after year, 11, 10, 12 wins. I mean, that's in this day and age of football, I think Purdue fans are realistic. Yes, they would absolutely love that to happen, but I think that they're realistic and say, if we get 8, 9 maybe on, every 3 years, maybe every 3 years you get 10 or 11, you have a special run where you are fighting near the top of the Big Ten, then yeah. But I think most Purdue fans know that that is not sustainable. You're not going to be an Ohio State where you're guaranteed 10 wins year after year just because you have a ton of talent on the roster. If you can build up and develop, maybe you can make a run when you have a really good group of seniors and contributing sophomores and freshmen. I mean, that's just the way it is at this moment. Could they get there? That's a long ways away, and it would take a whole lot more investment, whole lot more um, bump in recruiting. I mean, it like I said, it takes a long time, and Purdue is not there. What you would, I think, hope to see next year? First off, make a bowl game, then finish above 500 in Big Ten play. I think if you're finishing ahead of above 500 in Big Ten play, you are going to a bowl game more than likely because you should be good enough to beat a couple of non-conference games. But the non-conference next year includes Notre Dame, so you are going to have a difficult schedule. I don't think we've spent a whole lot of time on it next year for the schedule, but it can be daunting when you look at the roster of teams, because I think when it did come out for the 2024 schedule, I retweeted or quote tweeted and said it's brutal, because if there are not significant jumps in play for some of these players, or significant depth is built up, this is going to be a team that's going to finish between 4 and 6 wins and fighting for a bowl in the last few weeks of the season. So things definitely have to improve. If you see some of the younger guys that showed out and had some really stellar performances this season, like a Thieneman, um, like a Karloftis, who I thought came along over the course of the season. If you get the issues fixed with Maccabee and the fumbling, and him and Tracy just continue to blossom, if you develop a few receivers, if Duron Tibbs becomes a guy, if Burhan becomes a guy, then you have another year of Hudson Card. And if you do retain Graham Harrell, it's another year in his system. So maybe you can have a grasp on that system and maybe run it to its fullest potential. But if you're not making the changes that elevate you as a program, what are you doing? What are you doing? I appreciate all of you guys who have subscribed, who have listened, even if it's just for a few minutes here, a few minutes there. But if those who have checked in each and every week, and those who have commented each and every week on the YouTube stream, those who have subscribed, I appreciate you greatly. You have made this season interesting, worthwhile, fun, and entertaining. I hope I have entertained you for roughly an hour, for having 2 episodes a week that are roughly 20 to 30 minutes, so roughly an hour of your time each week. I hope that I have done my job, and kept you guys entertained for this season. So I appreciate you guys. It's been a fun ride. I've been your host, Brice Vance. One more time this season on a recap show. This has been the Behind the Rails of Purdue football, presented by Bet Online on the Believe Network. Thank you guys so much.